Don't you just love the South African government? For some reason, they've decided a few things. One of which is all pupils across South Africa should now have the exact same holiday. It sounds fair, right? In the past, coastal provinces and inland provinces have had separate holiday periods. Now, this was done on purpose. This would establish a longer tourism season, which would allow, now, bearing in mind a tourism season or a holiday season, during that time, the service providers could potentially charge a higher rate, and then out of season rates were then slightly lower, and this would then make it much more affordable and easier for a lot of people to then go on holiday in the out of season periods. Whereas in season periods had higher rates, which were more expensive, but it did boost the tourism sector. This also had the impact of reducing the amount of traffic on our public roads and transportation infrastructure, such as railroads. This change has an implication on these two aspects, and these two aspects are going to have a big financial as well as a physical implication on our economy. Firstly, there's less time available for these service providers of accommodation and tourism attractions and all of that in order for them to generate revenue from their services. So it's likely that they're going to increase their prices, and as a result, we're sitting with inflation. Secondly, there's going to be a lot more traffic. A lot more traffic essentially means that there's a lot more vehicles, a lot more people, and the services that those people require are going to increase. Which means the government, or whoever the service providers are, which most likely is government but also private sector, are going to have to appoint more individuals in order to provide those services. Individuals such as toll gate administrators, petrol station attendants, emergency response personnel, border control personnel to assist with border control and everyone traveling across board. So all of these all of these areas are affected, and as a result, then they need to have increased attendance, which means an increase in salaries, which is an increase in cost, and then it's likely that if it's government, taxes are going to be increased, or if it is private sector, it means prices are going to increase, which brings us back to inflation. So why the change? One thing that's been developed, or that has developed since the initial policy and the initial system for planning holidays have developed or have been implemented, one development that's happened is there's been an increase in matriculants writing exams every year, which means there's an increase in matric papers that needs to be marked, which means it takes more time. Now, the government has shortened the holidays and extended the period of school, the school year, slightly. And in doing so, they attempted to provide more time available for the teachers, firstly, to get through the school curriculum completely, and secondly, to allow them to, once they're done with the school curriculum, to actually take on and complete marking the matric papers on time. Now, that does make sense. But for a very long time, teachers and the students have been coping in getting through all the work with the current set of time. This change now also has the implication that teachers have less leave days available. Bearing in mind, teachers are already required to attend workshops and educational developmental programs during the June and September holidays, and very likely in the near future might be in April as well, which means that the only time a teacher effectively has off for holiday is in December. Now they've shortened the December holidays. They've essentially reduced the amount of leave the teachers have. Now, I do understand where they're coming from. They want to make sure that there is the same amount of time available to go through the curriculum and still maintain enough time to go through and mark all the matric papers. Because if there's a mistake on the matric papers in the marking, a child's future is affected. But on the flip side, if they now have to rush through grade 6, 7, 8, 9 and 10 in order for those teachers to get say grade 8 to 10, in order for those teachers to be available for going marking, they have to rush through there, then they are also implicating those students' future, even though they have more time and opportunity to correct any losses there, any mistakes there. So the way I see it now, with this reduced leave available, the government essentially have two options, or government and schooling governing bodies have two options. The first one, give teachers more leave days, because they've lost a lot of leave days now, and teachers don't get the standard 21 working days as per the Basic Conditions of Employment Act. Essentially also, well, the second option they might have available is to pay the teachers more, give them a raise, give them a higher salary because of the lower amount of time off. Honestly, I'm not expecting either one of those two options to be available. However, if it was my decision, I would not like my children to be taught by a distracted, tired and fatigued teacher. I would like a teacher to be at their best, so I would do both, essentially. If it was up to me and I was able to do that. Alan Thompson, who is a spokesperson for the National Association of Teachers Union, made a comment where he said the department should appoint more markers for the matric papers. He said this was because the current workload for that period in time is, and I quote, too hectic. This does make sense. The amount of matriculants have increased, and the amount of papers that have to be marked increased, and the amount of time available has slightly increased, but the amount of teachers have remained the same, so the workload per person is much higher. Now, having said that, by appointing more markers, there's again going to be a cost implication, but it may reduce the level of stress while providing the teachers with the ability to finish their marking earlier and then go on a bit longer leave to get a bit more rest in, so they come back and they start the next year with vigor, a lot of energy and a well thought out and well planned out semester or term. Now this is something very important to think of, and I don't think any of these options are going to happen, but I digress. So this is the financial implication of this decision by government. Do I agree with it? I don't have enough facts to actually have an opinion on that. I'm just here to explain what the financial implications are. Now, for your benefit, here are the school terms. I'll also put this in the description. Here are the school terms following. My name is Jacques Taljaard. This is Practitioner Accounting Services. Hope you have a great weekend.